Hello, my name is Amberly McCarty, or Ember Animates if you're finding this by stumbling across my channel, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my thoughts and analysis of Only Ashes Remain by Rebecca Schaeffer. It is the second installment of her popular Market of Monsters trilogy, though the series is often referred to by the name of its first installment, Not Even Bones. Obviously, spoilers ahead for the first two books in this series, and another warning, this series does get pretty dark. For context, this story takes place in a world where there are dozens of creatures that can pass as humans but are biologically different, referred to as unnaturals. It does not affect their ability of conscious thought and morals like many people in the story seem to think, but it changes a lot of things about their bodies, primarily their eating habits. More on that later. Also, many of their body parts can have interesting effects on humans. People can get high on the dust made from unicorn bones, zany blood acts as a powerful painkiller, and so on. This will also be important later. Now, with all this out of the way, let's get into the video. There's a very large cast of characters in the series, but for the sake of brevity, I'll only touch on the ones that are significant to the second book's plot. This story follows the life of Anita Sanchez, known commonly as Nita. She's an 18-year-old morally complex survivor who grew up in odd circumstances to say the least. Her mother and father never put her into school, and her family was often hopping countries to avoid the law. Her mother, Monica, was a hunter, skilled in killing unnaturals. Her father, Enrique, was their dealer, selling the body parts of his wife's victims to the black market. This left Nita with the job of dissecting those unnaturals, carefully removing body parts and storing them to be sold later. She's emotionally shut in because of her upbringing, and a bit more than selfish and vengeful when it comes to her own safety. Nita is also an unnatural with the ability to have nearly full control of her body. She can do things like healing cuts instantaneously, turning off her nervous system to make herself unable to feel pain, adding skin cells to give her face wrinkles, and much more. Kovit Sangwaraporn acts as Nita's close friend and later love interest, even though he was assigned by his boss to torture her when they first met. Yeah, did I mention this series gets dark? Kovit is a zany, which is a type of unnatural that feeds off people's pain. He grew up in a mafia family from the ages of 10 to 20 with the express role of torturing people, which he does enthusiastically throughout the series. This does not mean he's entirely without morals. Ever since he was taken in by the family, he has had a strict set of rules for himself when it comes to eating people's pain. He won't hurt children, he won't hurt the people that he knows, etc. This moral code gets him into lots of conflicts in the series, both with the Mafia and with Nita. Fabrizio Tucanan is one of the antagonists of the story. He and Nita met at the beginning of Book 1 when he was captured by Monica. Nita had always been fine with the morally gray area of simply dissecting people after they were dead, but became guilty when it came to kidnapping a living person. Nita releases him from her mom's captivity, and he responds by selling Nita to the black market. It is also revealed later that he is the son of an infamous man who runs a law firm, which is really just a front for a black market circle that deals in blackmailing. Fabrizio, for reasons he has never truly been clear on, has been trying to hide from his father ever since he was released by Nita. Agent Quispa is an agent of INHUP, which stands for International Non-Human Police. They are a large organization that deals with protecting unnaturals under prosecution from the black market, but also deal in the systematic murdering of unnaturals who are considered a threat to society. This is called the Dangerous Unnaturals List, and any species on that list can be killed on sight without it being illegal. Going back to Quispa, she and Nita met at the end of Book 1 when Nita admitted herself briefly into their protection. Quispa is caring, earning Nita's sympathy and trust by sticking her neck out for her and protecting her, though her belief in Nita's innocence is misplaced. Adir is a kelpie, a shape-shifting unnatural that is known to drown people before eating them. He is introduced in this book and gives Nita and Kovit a place to stay in Toronto. He has a very cavalier attitude, often joking about drowning people in his basement. He is also quick and savvy, taking information in exchange for his hospitality and not dealing in vengeance, because that only leads to rash decisions. He can also be caring when he likes, and he has a close relationship with his friend Diana, who he took in after she lost her family. Henry is a higher-up member of the Mafia family that Kovit used to work for. He practically raised Kovit, even being referred to as his adopted father. Before COVID arrived at the family, he was their resident torturer, and he thoroughly enjoyed his job. Before the series began, Henry ordered COVID to torture his friend Matt. When he refused and even helped Matt escape, Henry was livid and got very close to torturing COVID himself, but instead sent him to work at the death market as punishment. In Book 1, Nita is living her normal life, dissecting unnaturals that her mom has killed so her dad can sell their body parts on the black market. Except one day, Monica brings in a live person named Fabrizio. After an intense moral debate within herself, Nita helps Fabrizio escape. Less than 24 hours later, she is kidnapped. She assumes this is meant to be a cruel punishment from her mother, who she's not on best terms with. She is taken to the underground criminal institute in Brazil known as the Death Market, where she meets Kovet, a zany who was originally working for her captors. She eventually befriends him and discovers that he wants out too, so they escape together, burning the entire market to the ground in the process. It is also during this escape that Nita learns it was not her mother who sold her out, it was Fabrizio. She and Kovet part ways, and she decides to go to Inhut so she can be protected as she gets a passport and returns to her mother. She meets Agent Quispe, and the book finally ends with her introducing Nita to another refugee they took in recently, Fabrizio Tucanan. Only Ashes Remains begins in the same place the first book left off, with Nita coming face to face with her betrayer. They have a conversation, during which Nita realizes that he does not know she has figured him out. Later, she gets into contact with her mother, and they agree to meet in Toronto. Before she leaves, Nita poisons Fabrizio's drink in an act of revenge, but discovers once she arrives in Toronto that he survived. Nita and her mother get into an argument when they reunite, which leads to Nita walking out on her. With no money, no home, and no remaining family, she turns to her only other ally, Kovet, who just happens to be nearby. They meet up, and Kovet suggests that they try staying with a deer, a kelpie that Kovet met during his time living with the family. He runs a pawn shop and has an extra room for people who can trade information with him. At the subway station, they are attacked by a man who found Nita by her location being sold online. Her phone, which she had stolen from her former captor in the death market, had been bugged by a corrupt Inhut agent, and now people were going to be on her tail. They finally arrive in Adir's home, who agrees to host them in exchange for possible information he and his friend Diana can get from Nita's stolen phone. Nita decides the only way to scare people off from hunting her is by making herself seem like a threat. She sets a plan to sell her own information and then kill the people who come looking for her. Kovet is unsure, but does not vocalize his concerns clearly enough for her to realize. They go to an abandoned apartment building to lure the hunters, and she successfully kills 3 people, but her plan goes awry when more gunmen show up. Nita escapes narrowly, but not without the death of an innocent bystander and her face being caught on video fleeing the scene. The gunmen in question were not only expressly hired by Fabrizio, they are also members of the mafia family Kovet grew up in. Her face gets plastered on the news after video of her escaping leaks. The police publicize that they want to bring her in for questioning, and Adir gets very angry, saying he'll kick them both out if she brings police into his store. Nita contacts Quispe in hopes that she'll be able to get her out of talking to the police. She claims she was randomly attacked, and Quispe says that she'll try her best. During this conversation, she also reveals that Fabrizio is being relocated to Inhut services in Toronto and will be arriving the next day. Only an hour or so later, Kovet gets an email from Henry, his former boss and mentor, saying that they are going to meet up, otherwise he'll reveal the fact that Kovet is a zany to Inhut. If that happened, Kovet would be public enemy number 1, and it would be legal for someone to murder him. He agrees to meet with Henry. The next day, Nita and Kovet attempt to kidnap Fabrizio, but he quickly escapes, leading to an argument between the duo that ends badly. Kovet agrees to let Nita be hidden but nearby when he meets with Henry in case he needs backup. They meet, and in a moment of weakness, Kovet agrees to join the mafia family again, texting Nita that it's for the best. Nita returns to Adir's shop upset and alone. Adir has a conversation with her about why he thinks Kovet is the way he is. According to the Dangerous Unnaturals list, all Zanies are irredeemable monsters who deserve to be killed on sight. Why bother being a good person if you still get killed for something you can't control? He also reveals to her some insider information about the list itself, pointing out how all the unnaturals on the list are profitable on the black market, and other species who could be dangerous to humans are not on the list because their body parts do nothing. It's an eye-opening conversation for Nita, but it's cut short by police entering the store and taking her in for questioning. Nita is questioned by police in Quispe about the shooting at the apartment and Fabrizio's attempted kidnapping. Nita calls on her mother, who arrives quickly and is able to smoothly talk her daughter out of suspicion. Nita and Monica have a bit of a heart-to-heart, and Monica says she can come home whenever she'd like. Nita thanks her, but chooses to figure out things on her own. Nita arrives at the shop again, only to find out that a deer sold her out to Henry, and he captures her as bait for Kovit. When he arrives, Henry threatens to kill Nita and any of Kovit's other friends if he disobeys again. Kovit, reaching his breaking point, kills Henry, breaking one of his set rules and sending him into a spiral. Nita is able to talk him down, apologizing for pushing him too much earlier and explaining that Henry was no longer his friend, so he didn't break his rule. After she's able to calm him down, they kiss. Kovit leaves, and Nita attempts to kill a deer out of revenge, but Diana comes to his rescue and talks Nita out of it. Nita starts to fully realize just how easily she's been getting caught up in vengeance, and how to protect herself and others, her actions need to be calculated, not rash with emotion. She and Kovit have another conversation when they meet again to make rules between each other and communicate better. Nita lures Fabrizio with Henry's phone and kidnaps him successfully this time. She realizes now that violence won't scare away hunters, but information will. That's why she plans to use Fabrizio to break into Tucanan law and steal as much dirt as she needs to protect herself. The book ends with Nita discovering that Henry, before he died, sold Kovit out to Inhup. The final words are her vow to protect her friend from a world that would now need him dead, stating that she wouldn't fail him. The book's main theme is best summarized by its tagline, "Vengeance is a vicious vice." Nita is so caught up in vengeance for the entire story that she doesn't think things through and continually makes things worse. Though she is our protagonist, many scenes in this book showcase why you shouldn't copy her actions. She is selfish and easy to anger, and this causes her to fight with many of her allies who are trying to help. But by the end, she realizes that not everything can and needs to be solved by violence, and she learns to listen and set up boundaries with Kovit to keep their relationship strong. I'll be honest, I had a hard time reading this book. You notice how long the summary is, right? That's only the major plot points. There was so much more that was left out. Lengthy conversations and entire characters I didn't think were worth bringing up for this video. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved the book, but it wasn't really until the last 7 or so chapters that I got super invested, and that's out of 51 chapters. This is just something that's a personal issue of mine, nothing to do with the book itself. Typically in a book series, especially a trilogy, the first book is all about the action. The main characters meet. Every page is full of intense fight scenes with striking action. It ends with a major plot twist and a cliffhanger. But in the second book, these characters have to realize that they don't know each other very well. Most of the book is spent working out issues and discovering dynamics. I brought up about 15 major scenes in my summary, and let's say each of them spanned 2 chapters, which is pretty generous to some. That still leaves 21 chapters of just internal and external dialogue. I know all of this is necessary to really explore these characters and their relationships, but I get a bit impatient when it comes to reading sequels. Nothing to do with the book, just my personal lack of attention span. I do intend to finish this series, though, no matter how long it takes. As I said, the ending has me very hooked. So, here's the finished drawing. I hope you enjoyed, and to my wonderful English teacher, I hope I get a good grade. And to anyone watching on my channel, I hope you stick around. I plan to make more personal content over the summer that doesn't have to do with school, so if you like my art and or my voice, consider subscribing, and have an amazing day.